Hello, my name is Ethel, and I've been given the amazing opportunity to be a presenter to bring away my take on the book by Tony Evans, Pastor Tony Evans, and his amazing four children, Priscilla Shiver, Crystal Hurst, and Anthony and Jonathan Evans. They do a book together about grieving and loss and how um, their faith was really tested beyond measure and experiencing so much loss in life back to back. And many of us have experienced loss, but maybe not back to back like they did in their family. But you get to see the amazing unity of the family structure in this particular family. And they are public figures, all of them, and they do ministry as a family in public. So it's a lot to deal with grief in private, but then you're public figures. All of them are public figures and a family in the public eye. So their faith was tested beyond measure with so many losses back to back. They started off with Winter, the niece of Pastor Tony Evans, and the cousins of his kids. And she passed away unexpectedly, a young mother, 30 something years old, with her whole life ahead of her, the mother of four kids. And it was just unexpectedly. And I don't know the order of all the loss that they've experienced because it's just so much loss back to back. But they lost, Tony Evans lost his father, brother. Uh, they lost, siblings back to back, mother-in-laws, and then uh, Priscilla was faced with lung cancer, had to have some cancer removed from her lungs, and all of this was played out, in the public eye. And you're trying to grieve the loss of one relative, and then you got another relative after another relative. And then one of the most amazing moments of Pastor Tony Evans' life, where he should be celebrating, when he was inducted in the Hall of Fame with the National Religious Broadcasters Conference awarded. He had to tell his family that his wife, Mother Lois, First Lady Lois Evans, the cancer had returned. So now you're battling your mom with cancer, and then Priscilla found out that she had, something on her lung, and she put it on hold because she had to be there for her mom and other relatives, not knowing, hey, can we put this surgery off a little bit further? I'm, burying my mom or trying to be there for my mom. And you just see the amazing strength of the family and all this, the children, how they all dealt with grief differently, and they share their personal takes and experiences from their heart, what it meant like to be in this family and experience so much loss. Um, and what was amazing to me was Mother Lois, First Lady Lois, even on her deathbed, she was telling her children, while they're grieving, you still have work to do. And how many of us, even in the midst of grieving for lost ones who may be grieving, you're grieving them, maybe they battling cancer, so they're still among you, but they're suffering and you're watching them suffer. But the amazing strength of their mother, she told her children, look, keep moving, keep doing the work of ministry, keep doing what God has called you to do. And if you write, if you sing, if you preach, just keep the work of ministry going. And even Pastor Tony Evans, he, even as a pastor and grieving, he understood that, hey, yes, we're grieving. Our family is going through what we're going through, but I'm still a pastor and the people still need to be fed. They still need to be encouraged. So I was just really blessed by their faith being tested beyond measure, unexpected deaths and deaths that we know are coming if a relative has cancer. And even on her deathbed, you know, I just felt like I was like right there with them going through what they were going through because they shared so much from their heart, from their experiences. Um, and it makes you reflect on your own life. What will life be like when you pass away? And they were so blessed because all of them were there the moment she was transitioning and taking her last breath. They were there at that moment. And what an awesome experience to be in the room with your mom and your wife, even though it's not a happy moment, but you got to be there for her through her last moment and transitioning into glory. And I was really just focusing on what I wanted my life to be like, what I wanted my funeral like to be like. And she got to tell her kids what she wanted to wear, what some input of what she wanted the funeral to be like. And many times, we don't get to do that because our kids pick out what they want us to wear, and she had some input in that. And then I was amazed about how she wanted to live to see Christmas because Christmas was one of her favorite holidays, and how they wanted, she wanted to live to see her 70th birthday. And of course, 50 years of marriage, that didn't happen. But, I was like cheering it on. Yes, she made it to Christmas because they kind of told you what she wanted, to live to 70. And I was like checking off the box. She made it to 70. She made it to Christmas. That kind of thing. And then we just have, seasons. It just made me reflect on, just my family, making sure we have, our house in order. Do we have life insurance policies? Do we have a will and trust? And, you know, are we going to have the same unity of a family where we're not fighting over the house and fighting over stuff? But they didn't do any of that. They just, was loving and working together, and they didn't have time to grieve a lot because it was so much loss back to back. And, to lose your father, to lose your brother, your sister, your mother in law, and just all, how do we cope with that? How do we go and move forward? And that's what Lois told her kids, just keep moving forward. What does that really mean for us when our mom passed away, when our loved ones, how do we grieve? How do we honor their legacy even in death? And they would want us to be happy still. They would, because some people grieve and they just keep grieving for 100 years and they never recover from that death. And we want it to be a healthy grieving where it's healthy, where you can do things to remember your loved ones because they would want you to eventually move on. I often think about Winter's children, her daughters, her husband, what is going on with them, are they coping with the loss of their mom and him lost, the loss of his wife. And what messages would you have for your loved ones? Because I try to talk to my kids because I want them to know where I want my funeral at, who I want there, what songs I want played, all of that. And even with Lois, she was sharing that she saw her mom. And do you see my mom? And it was just such an amazing experience, um, even in the midst of their pain, because I was feeling their pain as I was reading the book. Um, I just felt like I was right there because all of them shared their experience, and then just cheering Priscilla on, who had to have something removed from her lung, and how God brought about victory. Because I remember that coming out in the news with Priscilla having the lung cancer, and she survived, and there was victory, and she's still among us because I love me some Priscilla Shira. And Crystal. They're my girls. I really love them. I love the work that God has called them to do, and always followed, Pastor Evans for years. So now I got really introduced to Jonathan and Anthony, and what an amazing family. And it's just so important for us to support one another. And then I thought about, families just making peace with each other, making peace with each other. If there's family friction in the family, just making sure we love on each other so that we're not living with regret that I didn't get to say I love you, or we had unforgiveness in our heart, or we hadn't been speaking to each other for 10 years. And there are siblings and relatives, and people aren't speaking to their mother and not speaking to their father and not speaking to their children, and family, you know, drama and unforgiveness and grudge holding. So, we just never know when life is going to hit. They didn't know that winter was going to pass at 30 years old, leaving these four beautiful girls and her husband. It was unexpected. She wasn't sick at all. So we never know when it's going to be our last time, when our loved ones walk out the door and we hadn't said, I love you. We haven't made peace as husbands and wives with, we argued, and then you find out that your loved one has left and that was your last time seeing them and it wasn't a good time. So we want to make peace in our marriages, in our families, in our with our children, with our grandchildren, with our co-workers and neighbors, because we just never know when life is going to, when God is calling us home, and what does that look like. And even with me, I just been focusing on the assignments that God has me to do with nonprofits and things for women to become more self-sufficient, um, and nonprofits and things that God has given me, and just using my gifts and talents. So what does this look like? And I just encourage you all to move forward and honor your loved ones that you have lost. um, Honor them, find a way to honor them and to make it something beautiful where you are grieving and it's healthy. And what can you do to remember mama? What can you do to remember that child that you lost, or coworker, or somebody that meant something to you? How can you remember them in a positive way where grief is healthy? So that is what I want to leave you with, my thoughts, and just believe in God through it all to walk you through this journey, that He will give you new added strength for the journey ahead, and comfort through your time of loss, whether it's loss of jobs and loss of foreclosures, you know, loss of careers, divorce. There's other things that devastate us, that there's a loss, and it's not always physical death of loss, but God is able to comfort us through any areas of loss in our life.